Hi, everyone.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. You
Hello.
can hear me, I hope.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I usually have trouble with that, right?
We're good to go tonight.
I want to be better prepared.
We're all set.
Ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 16th, 2021 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We will open with the roll call. Mr. Urice.
Here.
Ms. Hostetter.
Here,
Mr. Chiocchio is absent. Mr. Sylvain.
Here.
And Chairman Finaldi is here. I don't believe Mr. Renz or Mr. Haas are participating,
No,
so I will not be seating any alternate for Mr. Chiocchio, but we still do have a quorum, so we are fine to go. Let me just give the brief Zoom introduction and we can get on with our agenda. As a reminder to everybody, this meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though the meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. As a heads up, if you call in, please mute and unmute your phone to avoid an echo. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed this evening, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to Sharon Politro, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. With that said, commission members, the minutes of the June 2nd, 2021 meeting were previously distributed. Unless there's any discussion or comments, I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
second,
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes of the June 2nd, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The minutes of the June 2nd meeting are approved. Let the record show that our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on July 7th, 2021. And with that, we'll move to item 1 under our public hearings agenda. Number 1, Nutmeg Square LLC, application for revised special exception, revised site plan approval for a fast food restaurant, Jersey Mike's, and trip generation over 500 vehicle trips per day in the CG20 zone, and small piece of IG80, 70 to 72 Newtown Road, L12026, special exception number 697. The revised special exception application, revised site plan, traffic impact letter, department reports, and applicant's response were all previously distributed and are available. Let me read the legal notice before I forget. Legal notice, applications to be heard by the Planning Commission at the public hearing on a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom on June 16th, 2021, 7:30 p.m. Agenda to be posted will include instructions to access the Zoom meeting and application materials. Pursuant to Executive Order Number 71, Section 19C, and subsequent revisions, notice is hereby given that the following application will be heard. Public hearing number 1, Nutmeg Square LLC. Application for revised special exception / revised site plan approval for fast food restaurant, Jersey Mike's, and trip generation over 500 vehicle trips per day in the CG20 zone and small piece of IG80, 70 to 72 Newtown Road, L12026, special exception number 697. Arnold D. Finaldi Jr., Chairman, posted on city website and sent to town clerk on June 2nd, 2021. With that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Sorry about that. Yes, for the record, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Benjamin Dodo. I'm a licensed professional engineer with an office at 248 Main Street, and I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Nutmeg Square LLC. Also with me tonight are Joe Balskis, our traffic engineer, and David Hawley is the property owner. He's here as well tonight. As the notice said, the proposal is for the Nutmeg Square Shopping Center for a change of use for a unit. The Nutmeg Square Shopping Center is located at 70 to 72 Newtown Road, which is also State Route 806. It's the home of Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop is the anchor tenant there, located across the street from the Berkshire Shopping Center, in between Plum Trees Road and Eagle Road on the north side there. In a minute, I'll share my screen, but before I go there, the reason we're here tonight is Unit 7 in this shopping center is a small 1,500 square foot unit. It amounts to less than 2% of the whole shopping center. It was previously a cell phone store, a Cricket Wireless store. Jersey Mike's is proposing to come in and take its place. And the reason we're here tonight is Jersey Mike's is technically a fast food classification according to the city's regulations. Therefore, it is a special exception use. This is simply a change of use. It's a tenant fit up, but because of the special exception use, that's why we're here tonight. It did trip the trip generator of more than 500 trips. And that's why Joe is with us as well. Joe has submitted a traffic report, and then he's had some correspondence back and forth with city staff. I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but before I do, as most of you are aware, the shopping center has a one main driveway. It's controlled by a signal onto the road. That's going to all remain in place. You'll see in Joe's report and even in Abdul's statement that he mentions that there's adequate capacity in the existing system to handle any small increases from the site. Just want to share my screen here very briefly. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is the proposed site plan here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to get a sense. This is the shopping center. With the main driveway off of Newtown Road leading to Stop and Shop, and then unit 7 is the Cricket Wireless. Now I'm trying to find my draw command here, but is this unit right here, right at the corner. And what we're proposing to do is basically do an internal fit up of that unit. The site plan shows that there's more than adequate parking. Here is the existing facade. It is, you can see there's a for lease sign there. The only thing that's going to change to the outside of the building will be a sign, which will be above on the covered overhang like all the other signs in the shopping center, but the actual storefront will remain unchanged. The store will have it'll have 24 seats inside and 4 employees. Again, the comments from city staff, Jen had really no comments other than repeating something that Abdul had asked for. Abdul had asked for us, and I'll let Joe go into detail about why and his response. He had asked us to redo and install crosswalks and totally revamp the existing pedestrian crossing at the driveway. We feel that's not an appropriate. First of all, we don't feel it's needed, and it's really out of scale and out of scope for a project of this size, which is, again, it's an interior fit up of an existing retail unit. I'll let Joe touch on that, highlight his traffic statement, and then also his response to Abdul. Unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Ben at this point, commission members? Okay, we can go right to Mr. Bauskas.
Good evening, beautiful evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. Regarding the application, so as Ben mentioned, I guess I could maybe I can share my screen too, if that's helpful. I could run through, I'm just going to run through you see the memorandum, right? Are we prepared? Is that on screen? Everyone can see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So there's two things that I want to share with you. This is the memorandum that we submitted regarding the change in use, and I'm not going to go through all detail. It obviously does the usual traffic study type of efforts that we go through. We describe the project and the roadways. Now, the key thing about the roadway, as we all know, is under reconstruction. The state is rebuilding Newtown Road. The construction is underway right now. And I want to go into a little more detail as we go forward. So we talk about the project area itself, the adjacent intersection, the site drive intersection, and the shopping center. We did some crash analysis, which really aren't relevant to some extent because the roadway is being reconstructed. And so any crash patterns that are out there are expected to be addressed with the state reconstruction project. And then we talk about trip generation. This is always an issue that we go through on these projects in the city, where we have trip generation for the development using ITE numbers, ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And this table 1 shows the existing generation for the existing use, the proposed generation for the proposed use, and our net new trips. We're doing the evening peak hour, weekday evening peak hour, and Saturday midday. It's a retail area, so we're doing both an evening and a weekday. I'm sorry, weekday evening and Saturday midday. So this kind of highlights for everyone. This is key. This shows that in the actual evening peak hour, we'll be generating less traffic than the previous use. But then Saturday, busy Saturdays, we know in this area we're generating off 30 cars, and that's obviously 30 new cars. That's actually a very small number when you look at the traffic on Newtown Road, as we know, is in the thousands of cars over the course of the day. We did also do a generation comparison using the city's trip multiplier. And it was obviously a little different, which is always the case. ITE and the city trip multiplier many times is different. And this is showing a larger increase in evening than we had a negative, about a little bit more also on Saturday. Still, whether we say 30 cars here or 60 cars, 60 cars is 1 car a minute. 60 cars 1 hour, 1 car a minute. So it's still not significant. I use ITE because that's the industry standard. That's the Office of State Traffic Administration accepted methodology for trip generation. But we did want to show the comparison to the city's trip multiplier. And again, it's not a lot of traffic being generated in the peak hour. So we walked through that. We walked through the comparison, as I said before, between ITE and Danbury's trip multiplier, and show the difference there. And then we look at the site access. Obviously, it's not changing, as Ben said, and regarding the site plan. And we conclude that these trips, whether they're 29 or 60, aren't going to have a material impact. You're not going to notice it, basically, with this type of generation, given the existing volumes on Newtown Road. Now, I do want to talk about, I guess I can use this. This is in the report as well. This shows the actual intersection. And I want to use this because the state reconstruction project is, let me go here. Let me see, here we go. Is Walmart on there? Can I get Walmart? Where's the Eagle? I'm missing the Eagle. But the state reconstruction project is basically reconstructing the adjacent, I'll use Ben's, there you go, edit, here we go. So the state is rebuilding the roadway, we know that. And this is the site driveway here, intersection, Eagle Road and Walmart up here. So this entire roadway is being rebuilt, as we all know, it's under construction. The state is completely replacing all the traffic signal equipment at this location, as well as at Eagle, okay? Completely replacing, and I mean all signal equipment, the span poles, the signal heads, and they're changing the pedestrian phasing, the pedestrian signal heads, all new equipment here, and they're adding crossings, okay, across Newtown Road, both here and up at Eagle. What are they doing here at this intersection? They're not touching it. They're not adding any crossings across the Newtown Road. They're replacing the controller. Which is the guts of the computer signal, adding some interconnect to connect them, but they're not doing anything to the intersection. And the reason I'm pointing that out is that Abdul had a comment that we should add a crosswalk across Newtown Road as part of this project. We should rebuild the pedestrian signal infrastructure to accommodate that, and that was his comment. So I replied to that in an email, Let me see if I can get rid of this. How do I get, there you go. Let me get rid of that. Let me clear, I'm still saving my screen. Let me get my email. All right. And so I replied to that email. Oh, I gotta clear this out, sorry. Annotate, clear, drawn. There you go. Okay. I'm looking forward to getting back in person. I'm sure many of you are as well. So I replied to his email, his request comment in the email. I'm not going to word it verbatim. You've seen it. I think you've all seen it. But basically what we're saying here is that if the city wanted that, there's two things I should say. In 2011 was the corridor study, Newtown Road corridor study. In 2011, there was no recommendation to enhance, improve, change a pedestrian crossing at this intersection, site drive intersection, number one. Number two, the DOT project is not doing anything there in terms of pedestrian crossings across Newtown Road. And the city had a voice in that process. City had a voice in both of those processes. So if it was a concern for pedestrian crossings across Newtown Road, then I think the city local traffic authority would have made mention of that in either the corridor study and or the DOT design project, which is going on for years. And number three, if this is an issue, which I don't think it is, we don't have pedestrian crashes at the intersection that need to be addressed. If it still is an issue, significant issue for Abdul, and I've known Abdul for 20 years, as you guys all know, and if it's an issue, then the very easy thing to do here is not burden the applicant with a $50,000 or $75,000 improvement, which I don't think is necessary. And I'm speaking as a pedestrian bicycle advocate myself, because I'm the secretary of the Bike Advisory Board. But I think it's justifiable if it wants to be done, that it's be done as part of the state project. It's simple. Call the state DOT, simple change order, and get it done. And that's how things are done in the past when they realize that they want something done. That can be done here. I'm not saying it's necessary, but if that's a sticking point with Abdul, that's one way that could be done. So the bottom line here is that this project is not going to introduce you're not going to notice a traffic increase. I mean, 30 cars or 60 cars an hour, you're not going to notice that. It's 1 car a minute when you got 1,000 cars going by Newtown Road on a daily basis, 1,000 in peak hour, you're not going to notice it. So that's why the conclusion of this traffic statement that we put together is that there's no significant impact, and we don't agree with the recommendation for improving the intersection, for changing the intersection to allow pedestrians crossing formally across the roadway. Now, I should mention there are buttons there today. There's 2 buttons there today. You can cross Newtown Road by pushing a button, okay, and you get a green light to cross. You get a green light from the side street to cross Newtown Road. And I don't mean to go on with this, but the DOT, they are now changing all their what we call side street green operations to concurrent operations. They're doing that, and they didn't do it here, so they didn't see it necessary. So therefore, that's why our conclusion is that this should not be a requirement of this applicant, and if it's needed, it should be done as part of the state project. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to, were you done or were you just?
Yeah, no, I'm done. That's enough for me. You heard me talk enough.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else?
Could I ask Joe a question?
Of course, Joel, please.
You know I couldn't let you go without.
I know, Joe. That's okay.
It's a dance we do.
That's right.
The process here, if the city were insistent on doing this, the applicant would have to go to the DOT to get approval in the first place, because it's a state road. As we've done the dance with them many times about driveways and driveway widths and pedestrian crossings and such on this highway. And then for whatever reason, that they're going to respond in whatever way they would. And what I would expect would be, well, no, we considered all that. We've been planning this thing for a long time. I recall going to the public presentation where they committed to finish this whole upgrade by 2017. And I'm still waiting for that. So what we got is a preference within the city staff to do an improvement of an improvement in the pedestrian crossings, not proposed by the state, that is in the middle of doing a major renovation of the whole roadway. I don't know. It just doesn't seem a request to even make, but I mean, I'm not questioning Bill's request there, in his reasoning behind it. I just don't see it as being something we need to deal with on this project.
Yeah, let me just follow up with that. So, I'm a professional engineer, as Ben is as well, and it's my duty to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the traveling public. Excuse me. And if we saw something happening here, I would have to do something. I would have to say something about it. I have to do something about it and suggest something about it. We don't see a pattern there. Is it possible this may increase pedestrian traffic between the two? I don't see that. It's not happening today. So yeah, Joe, I agree. I agree with you. I think it may have been that it sounded a good idea, and it's certainly consistent with what DOT is doing, and it's a little surprising to me that they didn't consider doing it. But to your point about the process, this will take months. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it because of that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it at all. But if the developer were to say, yeah, okay, I'll do it, this will take months. Going through the DOT process to review a signal change, design signal change, the process will take months. And we do know the city likes to see the DOT permit issued, which I don't agree with, before the building permit is issued. So it's a 6 to 12 month process to do something like this. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it for that reason, but until you understand the process. But I agree with you. I think it was just Abdullah saying, yeah, that would make sense. Let's ask for it. And there's nothing wrong with asking for it. I think if it's a need, then there's certainly a means to do it now, while it's under construction, if that's a desire of the city.
Thank you.
Joe, is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Dodo had his hand up.
Oh,
You gotta learn how to use the put the hand up, Ben.
Yeah, I do. Arnie, I'll wait until we hear from any opposition.
Okay.
I'll summarize. Yes.
One more time, is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none, Ben, go right ahead.
Yes, just in summary, I think Joe sort of clarified our position as to the request for the pedestrian crossing there. Again, this is technically it's a fast food, but it's a sandwich shop. It's not a McDonald's. It's not a Dunkin' Donuts. With the amount of traffic that you get from there. So again, I just want to. Even though there isn't any site work or anything being done, it's an internal fit up. I just want to say that this application, we do comply with the 10C4 requirements in the zoning regs. This will not emit noise, smoke, odor, vibrations, or glare. It's compatible with the neighborhood. It's an interior fit up of an existing shopping center. And it's not going to have an adverse impact on traffic safety or create traffic congestion. I think Joe's report summarizes that. And even Abdul agreed with respect to traffic congestion and that. And again, it's not a harm to the environment or public health. It's basically a restaurant. So
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jennifer, I don't think we're waiting for any additional departmental reports on this matter, are we?
Mr. Chairman, we are not. This was only because, as Ben said, it was only a tenant fit out. No changes were being proposed to the site or to the driveways. It only went to Abdul, and you have his comments. So at this point, there is nothing outstanding, and I had no comments that haven't been addressed. All my comments have been addressed.
Thanks, Jen. Commission members, unless there's something I'm missing or issues anyone cares to discuss, I see no reason to keep this public hearing open until our next meeting. Again, I'll open the floor for discussion, but unless there's anything else or any points of clarity or anything like that, I'll entertain a motion to close it.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? This public hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Does
I'm
anyone
sorry,
want?
who made those motions? Who made those motions?
Joel and Perry.
Joel,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I was gonna do it. I had to unmute.
Sorry, thank you.
Does anyone want to move this to number 2 under old business for discussion and possible action? Anyone?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second. Go ahead, somebody else.
Ellen made the motion and Joel seconded. We're going to move this matter to item 2 under old business for discussion and possible action. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the matter of Nutmeg Square will appear as item 2 on our old business for discussion and possible action agenda. Okay, let's move forward to our second public hearing this evening. Worcester Mountain Realty LLC, application for special exception site plan approval for medical office, Danbury Proton LLC, and trip generation over 500 vehicle trips per day in the IL40 zone. 85 Worcester Heights Road, G18062, special exception 781. I will again read the legal notice. Legal notice applications to be heard by the Planning Commission at the public hearing on a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom on June 16, 2021, 7:30 p.m. Agenda to be posted will include instructions to access the Zoom meeting and application materials pursuant to Executive Order 71, Section 19C, and subsequent revisions. Notice is hereby given that the following applications will be heard. Item 2, Worcester Mountain Realty LLC, application for special exception site plan approval for medical office, Danbury Proton LLC, and trip generation over 500 vehicle trips per day in the IL40 zone, 85 Worcester Heights Road, G18062, special exception number 781. Arnold D. Finaldi Jr., Chairman, posted on the city website and sent to the town clerk on June 2nd, 2021. The materials for this public hearing were previously distributed on the agenda. Commission members, hopefully everybody had a chance to review those. With that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Beecher of the Collins Hannafin Law Firm, and I represent Danbury Proton LLC, as well as Worcester Mountain Realty LLC, which is the property owner. With us tonight are Stephen Courtney, who's the managing member of Danbury Proton LLC, Ben Dodo, who's the project engineer, and he's already all warmed up from the first hearing. Mike Galanti, our traffic expert, is here, and Abigail Adams, our landscape architect. And lastly, Lee Robinson, who's the managing member of Worcester Mountain Realty LLC. This subject property is a 3.3 acre undeveloped parcel. It's in the IL40 zone, and it's on the north side of Worcester Heights. And it's on the west side of Lee Farm Road, which is the access road that currently takes you into Lee Farm Corporate Office Park. This property is located across the street from the Army Reserve Facility and diagonally across the street from the Keystone Place at Worcester Heights Assisted Living Facility. This application is for an $80 million state-of-the-art proton therapy cancer treatment facility. Steve is going to give you an overview of what that facility is and where we stand with our licensing with the state of Connecticut and the certificate of need that we need from the state in a couple of minutes. This facility is 1 story and it's 16,065 square feet. The site has access to city water and sewer. And this particular plan complies in all respects with the IL40 area bulk and setback requirements. And as you all can see from the site plan, access to this property will be coming in on the Lee Farm Road access drive from the signalized intersection of Worcester Heights. There won't be any direct access or curb cut from Worcester Heights directly onto this parcel. We've applied to you for a special exception for this property because it is a medical office use and because it is a trip generator under the trip generation tables in your regulations. The trip generation table identifies this project as having 670 traffic trips per day. Mike Galanti is going to take you through all this in a little while, But I will tell you that the actual trip generation from this facility will be considerably less due to the fact that there will be limited appointments per day at this facility, and those are staggered throughout the day. Numerous patients are not coming in to see numerous doctors at the same time. This is not a multi-doctor facility. Patients will not be stacked up as they wait to see various professionals at the same time. There will be 34 people on site at any given time, 32 employees and 2 doctors, and a total of 48 patients visiting this facility each day. So based on the actual use for this proton therapy facility, we will only be adding 26 trips during the morning peak and also just 26 trips during the afternoon peak hour. That's only adding 2% to the existing traffic trips on Worcester Heights during the weekday morning and afternoon peaks. The proposed building will be buried into the hillside and has a unique design and rooftop, which Ben and Abigail will take you through in a few minutes. It's designed this way, obviously, because we're located in the airport approach zone. The building design is almost as cutting edge as the proton therapy cancer treatment itself. The FAA has approved the exact locations and heights of the proposed building and the retaining wall. And where this Danbury Proton Facility property abuts Worcester Heights, we are willing to convey to the city of Danbury the strip of land along the south side of the property that includes a portion of Worcester Heights Road, which is meandered over onto our property, the sidewalk and a snow shelf as requested in Rob Barone's report. This area is shown on both Ben's site plan as well as on the survey that we submitted prepared by New England Land Surveying. We also agree to construct the sidewalk along Worcester Heights bordering this Danbury Proton site as requested by Mr. Barone. Because of the proximity of this property to the airport, we secured variances from the ZBA. One, to allow the continuous perimeter planting strip to consist of just grass lawn and to eliminate the requirement for trees and shrubs. And one, to eliminate the required trees from the landscaped islands and to eliminate all required street trees for obvious reasons in the airport zone. Like any project, this project has its unique nuances, such as being located within the airport approach zone and having a grassed roof. But as designed, this application is pretty straightforward. The proposed medical use is unobtrusive and perfectly suited for the IL-40 zone and this location in this particular neighborhood. Excuse me. At this point, I'm going to introduce to you Stephen Courtney of Danbury Proton. After Steve, we'll go to Ben, then to Abigail, and then to Mike Galante, and then I'll wrap up. So Steve?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. I've spent quite a bit of time in boards and commissions of my own community, so I know what the time that you give to your city is very important. So I will try to kind of balance taking your time and also giving you enough information that'll be useful for you. Quickly, we'll just be trying to answer the who, what, when, how, and why of the project. Very briefly, proton therapy itself is just one of the various treatment modalities that one might.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
encounter.
Yes, Joel. Excuse me.
Could we get the person's introduction of who and where?
Certainly, my name.
Yeah, I think that Tom did introduce him, but Stephen, just for the record, please give your name and affiliation.
Sure. My name is Stephen Courtney, and I'm the managing member of Danbury Proton. We are operating out of Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. So when you have cancer, you often have surgery. You may have some chemotherapy. You may have some radiation. You may have some immunotherapy, and sometimes you have all of those. our radiation treatment is different from the conventional radiation that is heretofore been available to the public. And primarily in the fact that you get 60% less radiation to your healthy tissues as you're treating your tumor. That has a significant impact on the side effects, as you might well imagine, and that your healthy tissues are not treated. And one of the biggest issues there is that it more or less eliminates any secondary cancers that might come from the treatment itself. So the younger you are, the more important it is. For children, it's an absolute must in terms of the kind of radiation that you should receive, because the longer you live, the longer that radiation has a chance to catch up to you, if you will. Because there are very few side effects, it really doesn't affect your normal day-to-day life. You can go to work, you can do exercise. Most patients report absolutely no side effects whatsoever. It's totally non-invasive. In other words, there's no cutting going on involved, so infections are non-existent, frankly, from this treatment. So it has many advantages for the public. At the moment, so why here? There are 40 centers in the United States. The closest to Danbury is in Upper Manhattan, and the next closest is in Boston. The 50-mile radius around this site is the largest demographic in all of the United States without a proton therapy facility. And that's why we chose to locate in this particular area. We'll only scratch the surface, frankly, of the number of people that really need this kind of treatment. And that's working 2 shifts a day, and we'll be treating about 48 patients a day. There's a single treatment room, and we take about 20 minutes for each patient on average to get them treated. Even there are, as I said, many more patients that really need this. So fortunately, there's another proton facility that's also being planned in the state in the Wallingford area. Both of our projects are under the review process of the State Health Department. As Tom mentioned, the certificate of need process. And both projects within the next few weeks should be approved or determined whether they would approve them or not. Our project has completed the construction documents. We're ready to go as soon as we are able to seek your approval. We will be submitting the plans to the building department for their review as well. So we're ready to go. When we do begin operations, which will be a couple of years, it's not the fastest of projects because the equipment itself takes a good 9 months just to install it into the building. But it will be operated by a Dr. Leslie Yonemoto and Andrew Chang, both well-experienced radiation oncologists in proton therapy. They will also be assisted by our chief physicist, Michael Moyers. In terms of how, I think the short phrase for that is sustainably. We're very focused on people, the folks that are building the project, the people who will be running the facility, the medical staff and support staff, and of course, our patients. We want our project site safe. It's one of the reasons why we selected a CM with a stellar safety record in terms of safety on a job site. We want a healthy environment for the staff once they're there. And we want to be cognizant of the community that we're in and how the project can affect the community. The building is designed with LEED principles in mind. It's earning about 50 points, which is just under the platinum level for those folks that are familiar with that. We're also using well building standards, which is really focused on indoor environmental quality, or the IEQ. There are 67 performance measures that will be assessing that. In recognition that the people that are working for you are your most important folks. And one of the things that we'll be really focused on there is VOCs and making certain that there are no off-gassing of all the materials that are used in the project. LEED really focuses on energy savings, and well building is really on health standards in the space. The key items in terms of sustainability are, as you've recognized, is the green roof, which not only helps reduce the latent heat buildup for the project, but also for the region. It also slows the stormwater, so it makes the stormwater retaining less necessary. You are using geothermal energy for the heating and cooling, as well as the entrance snow melt system. The project will not use any fossil fuels other than the emergency generator. The emergency generator is also sized to be able to run the entire facility, not just life safety systems. And that's important for our patients, because patients typically have maybe 33 treatments 5 days a week. And if you interrupt that treatment sequence, it can mess up their treatment of the tumor. So we size the emergency generator, especially given there have been some problems with emergency generation recently in Danbury, as well as the whole state. We are sourcing nearly all the building materials within 500 miles of the site. I think the farthest material is the cladding material that we're using on the building, which is a product made by Tactile. It's a concrete panel, a thin concrete panel that replicates what you might get with a precast panel that's typically 4 inches thick. These are only 5/8 inches thick, which uses a lot less cementous material, which itself is not carbon neutral at all. So the thinner you can do that, the better. It's very strong. It's color fast. It has a lifelong performance. You don't have to refinish it, paint it, or anything like that. And amazingly, it's self-cleaning. There's a chemical within it, titanium dioxide, that when light shines on it, it actually absorbs nitrogen oxides, which cleans the atmosphere as well as cleans the panel itself. It's even antimicrobial if you need the outside of your building to be that way. I mentioned earlier that we want to carefully select all the materials we're using. Also dynamic glass, which shades the glazing, particularly on the west and the south side, which is the only elevations that we have glass, to allow daylight into the space, yet reducing the energy component from that. The skylights are really slick design that are coming from Maine. And I think that's the highlight of the sustainability issues, and certainly open to questions when we get to questions.
Any questions at this point for Mr. Courtney, commission members, or anything at this point? Thank you, Mr. Courtney.
We're going to go to Ben next.
Ben?
Yes, good evening, Benjamin Dodo. I'm the civil engineer for the project, representing the applicant here tonight. I've been involved in along with Steve, in the initial site design of this property. As I'm not going to repeat everything Tom and Steve had said, but just want to touch on that this is a very a unique site. It's a sloping site. It's in the, as we all know, it's in the airport approach zone. So in addition to having to comply with the IL-40 zoning regulations, we also have to apply with the airport overlay regulations as well with respect to height. So it's not just a function of 45-foot building height. The maximum height of the structure depends on where you are on the site relative to the airport. So we comply with all of that. The building has been designed to fit the site, and the site itself lends itself to the design of the building. So they sort of complement each other. We have adequate parking. We require about 37 spaces. We have about 59. The site will be served by city water and city sewer. It will have a storm water management system on the site, as with most of these sites. It will also include, in addition to a detention system, it will also include a water quality unit to further clean the water before it discharges from the site. And as Steve had mentioned, the size of the drainage system is a little smaller than a normal size system would be for a property of this size with this much building and pavement. And it's mainly because the majority of the roof will be flat, will have a soil media on it, and will be landscaped. And Abigail can go into the details of that. But as with the difference between a field and a parking lot, as we know, you get a lot less runoff from a pervious surface compared to an impervious surface. We still have roof drains underneath it that collect the storm water and get it to the system. It just gets it to the system slower and at lower peak volumes. The site itself, I'm going to share my screen if everyone doesn't mind.
Nope.
Here's the site right here. The main access is off of the existing Lee Farm access drive. This is that signal that's right across from Keystone Place, the newer assisted living facility right across the street. So we will use that access drive. There'll be a curb cut inside the private driveway to come into the site here. When you come in, to your left will be a utility yard. That utility yard is going to contain items like the transformer, the chiller, the generator, compressor units, and trash. It will completely be screened. So when you're coming down the hill, it'll be below grade. And then as you're driving past it, the whole utility yard will be screened before you come past the building. The parking lot will sort of have a circular pattern. It'll have a covered porte cochere that you could drive under and drop someone off like you would at a hotel. So if you had to drop someone off, you'll be covered. The site does have retaining walls on it. The retaining walls are designed because the property itself is actually cut into the hillside. Steve had mentioned some of the sustainable items, and in addition to the grass roof, we're going to have a couple electric vehicle charging stations for over in the parking lot as well. Just to get a sense, I know you've seen the pictures, but this is sort of a view of the site from the northwest. Looking across the site, you see Worcester Heights Road, and as you know, we had mentioned the key the primary features of this building are the green roofs. The building itself is tucked into the hillside. This is again looking from the north. Again from the north, as you could see the skylights peeking out. That gives you the sense of the building that's under there. And then, as I had mentioned, the screened utility yard is over here on the, this is the area that the utility yard screen. So when you come into the site, there'll be some sliding gates there that you won't be able to even see what's in there. And again, everything is below grade there anyway, when you're coming down the hill. This gives you a sense of how the site sits relative to the existing grade and the approach zone. On this plan, you can see the existing grade. Here's the existing hillside coming down. A good portion of the site is below it. The retaining walls that you see, they're a series of terraced walls, and this was part of the design to make it intentional. Instead of putting up a big 20-foot wall, we put a series of, 3, 5 to maximum 12 or 14-foot high walls to sort of terrace it better. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this plane here is the airport approach zone overlay. The entire building and the wall system all sits below that, as is required in the zoning regulations. I'm not as quick as Joe was with my presentation here. So anyway, just so to get us to get a sense of the comments that Tom had mentioned, that the property line sits in Worcester Heights Road. This is an old remnant, and just to show you, here's the property line right now, and here's the edge of Worcester Heights Road. And this had to do, I don't know all the history of it, but I do know that Worcester Heights is a lot wider now, and it has a slightly different alignment than it did 40 years ago. And these are some of the items that the city is asking that we clean up. So far, we've received comments from Jennifer. Her comments were basically saying we're still waiting on Abdul's comments, and I think we're still waiting on Abdul's comments because I haven't seen them yet. The fire marshal her comments were fine. She just asked that we put in some fire lane striping and signage. We can coordinate that with her. And then the other thing they want is that the sprinkler connection. I did mention that the building is sprinklered, that we coordinate the location of that hookup, that it's okay with them. And that's something that, we can do. The construction services, Tom had previously gone over those comments. And we did receive some comments from Mike Safranek, the airport administrator, today, and we will respond to those in kind. We're still waiting to hear from engineering, traffic, and I think the building department. I think that's it. But again, we will put together a formal response with respect to this project. I'm going to, that's really all I have right now. I'm going to let, I think Abigail goes next, right, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I jump in before we get rid of the?
Go ahead, Joel. Sure.
You flipped by several slides as you were getting to this one. One of them, as I caught a glance of it, looked like it was showing the cutaway of, don't go too fast on me here.
Okay.
The cutaway of how the existing terrain is.
Right here?
Well, no, it was after that, I believe. Okay, here we go.
That one? Yep.
Yeah, because there was a lot of fill went in there with the construction of Keystone. And, the whole area was just yards and yards and yards and yards of fill that came from across the street. And so I'm not sure, is this reflect the existing elevation or the previous to being modified elevations?
I can answer that, Joel.
Okay.
This plan represents the existing elevations that are out in the field today.
Okay.
The fill that you're referencing, it was extra material that was brought across the street from the Keystone property.
Right.
It was not put on the Danbury Proton portion of the site.
Oh, was it?
It was put below the Danbury Proton portion of the site. Just to get a sense, here is this is the survey and it's flipped around. But, and again, I don't have it. Here's the Danbury Proton site.
Okay,
The fill itself was mainly put in this area. The lower
okay,
portion of the site, which is not on our property, not that. You will see there's still, if you were to drive by there today, there's still a piece of equipment there for screening.
uh-huh,
It is deceiving. They did come across the street and go down this way when that was put in. So the grades that we show today represent the
grades that they're
what's
there.
actually out there. And to get a sense of that excavated earth, as we had mentioned, we went through the process with the FAA. So just to get and this is really just a schematic. The red shows the material we're taking out, and the areas not in red either show existing grade or proposed grade with respect to this. I think
Okay.
this is the one that really to get a sense, but that existing grade represents the grade that's out there today. And the material from across the street was not put on this part of the property. This part
Okay,
of the property,
all right.
and one of the reasons it wasn't is because this part of the property was so close to the to the airport approach zone that we would have put it here only to have to take it out. As you can see, when you get to the top right of this screen, the building approach zone almost hits the existing grade as you get to the top of the hill.
Okay. All right, second question, just something you referenced earlier, or one of the other gentlemen did, about sizing the backup generation. How large of a plant is going in there, and what's its fuel source?
It's a 500 kVA natural gas generator.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Attorney Beecher, where did we leave off?
We're gonna go with Abigail Adams now for the landscape plan.
Great.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect, owner of A2 Land Consulting, New Fairfield, Connecticut. Thank you. I shared my screen, so hopefully that popped up.
It did.
Fabulous. Okay, so the overall concept for the landscape and planting plan is really in keeping with the architectural design, which is to blend into the natural surroundings while creating a very aesthetically pleasing look throughout the entire year. Throughout the site, we're utilizing an extensive amount of ornamental grasses, perennials, and some smaller shrubs. Again, we can't have any very large plantings on the site because of all of the FAA regulations, but smaller shrubs just for some accent, some four-season color and variety throughout. We're utilizing various seed mixes that heavily benefit smaller wildlife, especially pollinators such as butterfly and hummingbird. Garden mix, we're using a native upland forage and cover meadow mix. We have prairie mixes. You can see along the legend the extensive amount of mixes we're using throughout the site. The existing site is a very large meadow. We are coming back and trying to keep with what's existing out there, although we're enhancing it. Again, the amount of perennials and things for wildlife that we're putting in is extremely extensive. The intent of the roof garden planting, among many other things, is really, again, to blend in with the hillside. As you saw from those 3D sketches, the roof line just moves through my little hands here. It just moves as if it's one continuous terrace. In terms of the roof plantings, we're utilizing large bands that can be read from the site as you drive in, large bands of tall grasses and perennials in one level, moving down to medium height, and then to much lower ground covers in this corner. It's going to be really pretty amazing, I think. We are working with a green roof consultant, making sure that we pick all of the appropriate species that we need. We've come up with a really great list for that and for the site in general, but we're working with them specifically so we get exactly what we need to work appropriately on that roof. We have a slightly more, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Sorry, it's sort of very small there. We have a slightly more, I'm going to call it a formal design. As you move through the driveway entrance, we have a loose hedge of inkberry for evergreen, but again, we are pulling in those large swaths of medium prairie mixed meadow here, shorter in front, taller in the back, just to create these variations in heights, textures, and colors throughout all of the seasons, especially the 3 seasons, but again, some interest throughout the winter as well. In the southwest corner here, we've provided a buffer planting of dwarf red chokeberry, native shrub, which is the buffer between some of the parking spots here and the small detention basin, which will be seeded with a rain garden mix that can handle some inundation from any rainstorms. As Ben had mentioned, we're going to have screening of the utility area in this location. We're going to be utilizing some green screens where we'll be proposing evergreen ivy on there, as well as clematis, again, get some pops of color with the evergreen that we're going to have on those screens. We're also proposing a few bike racks throughout the site. We've got one here for anyone who's coming to visit the site, also some back in the utility area, maybe for employees who might want to ride their bikes to work. And then we also have, for future design, a very small Japanese-inspired garden that we will potentially do in the future. This would be a really nice respite area for any patients. When somebody is in remission, then they can go and maybe we'll have a gong. They can ring the gong. It's just a really somewhat sacred space for people to enjoy and just relax and potentially meditate in that area. We have done some extensive plantings in the plant beds, again, just for some variety throughout, but things that can handle maybe some salt. It can handle snow pile up, but we'll have great color throughout the 3 seasons. Let's see here. I'm just going to stop that share for 1 second. I can come back to it as needed. I want to do one more screen share. Just have to find the plan here. We have submitted a photometric plan. It's quite simple, really. Again, no tall site light fixtures here. There'll be some site lighting on the building, but we're really proposing a row of 4-foot high site bollards that are going to be along the sidewalk here. And then we would also have a row that's throughout the central walkway here, lighting up these spaces, as well as the central walkway, a couple in this area here as well, and some along the island. They're very simple, sleek, work with the architecture. One thing I did forget to mention in the landscape plan is that we do have some really cool columns here that will be able to take the installation of some plant material that we can have hang down and creep down along those large columns for some additional architectural interest. I think those are the main highlights, but I'm happy to go back to the planting plan if there's questions.
Any questions for Abigail, commission members at this point?
If I may.
Please.
Yes.
It's a couple. I'm going to go from the end backwards. On the lighting you're talking about, all that lighting is going to be below grade to Worcester Heights, is it? Would it not?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no chance that lighting from this is going to reflect back on what housing is across and diagonally across the street there.
That's correct. And there's zero uplight.
Okay, zero uplight. Oh, of course, that airport requirement too.
Yes.
Okay, back to the terrain and the landscaping. When you were talking about some of the larger areas, I thought I caught wildflowers and such in those areas. Was that?
Absolutely. So what we have here in this large clouded area is the native upland forage and cover meadow mix. It's going to be a lot of ornamental grasses and a lot of things that small animals may like, again, pollinators. So there's going to be a mix of a lot of grasses and some perennials in that. On the mid-level terrace here, we are proposing a showy wildflower meadow mix that is going to have some of the same species that we have in the tall meadow mix. So everything is going to start to blend. You're going to pick up the masses visually of plantings, but it's also going to be pulling in different species from the different areas here. And then we have the butterfly and humming garden mix in this area here. On the lower terrace, we are proposing a prairie meadow matrix planting. That's a very detailed, that's not a seed mix, it's a very detailed planting plan and list of specific grasses and perennials that will be planted in groups in somewhat of a matrix planting with a few different blocks. And in here's where we'll have some of the inkberry, some evergreen, just to create that 4-season interest.
Okay, excuse me, not to overkill on specifics in the next question here, but I'm thinking about wildlife support, and we can talk butterflies, but I was thinking things in the higher order of the animal species, perhaps rabbits, which are becoming a thing of the past around here because of our coyote population. Deer grazing and such. Would any of that be those plantings be supportive of those kinds of creatures?
It would definitely be supportive of the smaller wildlife. I don't want to say rodents because that always has a negative connotation, but
well, squirrel's a rodent.
Rodent's a rodent. Yeah, it's definitely going to be supportive of that wildlife. There's going to be deer here no matter what, right? It's just what it is. So they will probably be here and do their grazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Abigail at this time, commission members?
This is Helen, Mr. Chairman. I was interested in finding out a little bit about the building itself and how it's divvied up for uses. I saw in a staff report that it's 16,065 square feet total. A medical is 3,675, which is apparently single use, in other words, one patient at a time. Then it's 1,870 of office, and then the rest of it is storage, which is 10,520 square feet, storage mechanical. So I was just, considering the technology here, it's new technology, how much of the 10,000, I imagine the proton creation, technology takes place in this storage mechanical. How can I just get a sense of how much is, the technology itself and how much is storage, and whether whether some of this is future planning maybe for, having more patients in the future?
Steve, Ben, you want to take that one, or Steve?
I'll take the beginning of it unless Steve does, and then because I was the one that helped break it down. I don't have, Helen, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but I can get that to you. The main equipment vault is very large. I'll let Steve describe that. But when we broke it out, the main equipment and its components are in that. But there's also other factors like hallways and utilities and things of that nature. And then also, if you see on this plan, we included a phase 2. We included in that number is the ability for a future vault, a second one. Steve can answer. There are no plans for that at this time, but just to get a sense, like we do with a lot of projects that is in front of you, that come in front of you, let's see here. I'm going to draw on the screen right now. Just to get a sense, Helen, the equipment itself takes up the majority of this. And even though it's a one-story building, there's a basement below it in portions of it. There's a catwalk above it. So it is a one-story building, but right in this area, and I'll let Steve touch on that, describing how just how massive or large this machine is. But also in that 16,000, Helen, we included the ability for a second one in the future if that were ever needed here. And you'll see that on the plan says phase 2.
So that potentially could be backup in case one fails, or just increase usage, yeah?
Yeah, I think more the latter than anything.
Yeah.
But I'll let Steve touch on that.
Okay.
And then what I did with this application, I took the architecturals and I broke it down by square foot. I just don't have that in front of me now.
No, that's all right. I got it out of the staff report, so I think you gave it there. So I have it, I guess. I
Okay,
just was
but
curious as
I can
to,
give you a better sense of proportion, but I'll let Steve take over from here to describe in addition to the vault, there's some pretty incredible wall thicknesses in portions.
right, good, thank you.
Yeah, I'll let Steve jump in though.
Sure. One thing I want to clarify, when Tom talked about the 30 staff being there, that would be only a change of shift, kind of. That typically it's only 16 people there running either in any given shift. So that might have confused folks on that. Yeah, the vault is the heart of this project. It's the treatment room, and I think it's about 54 feet from top to bottom, and the bottom contains most of the electronic equipment, and the treatment level is on the main level, and then we have a catwalk, as been said, at the top, which is for maintaining various pieces of the equipment that's at the top. There's also a small basement at the lower level that holds all the pumps for the geothermal system, our electrical rooms, our main water room, and one office for the engineer that's maintaining that system. And a little bit of storage space for their equipment as well. There's also a uninterruptible power supply system there, and a small heat pump water heater. So that makes up all that area there. And as Ben says, yeah, we given the fact that the project is not going to be able to come close to serving the need in the area, we did think it was prudent to plan on the ability to put a second machine in. This machine, I didn't mention, is made in the United States. It's the only one of the 4 different ones that are made in the United States. We believe it's also the most cutting edge, and certainly the less expensive to run. Its energy usage is significantly less, and the maintenance engineers feel like Maytag men. They hardly have anything to do. So, and that makes a huge difference, first for the patients, in the fact that the equipment is consistent and runs very well. But also in terms of just running the facility, many other manufacturers, the engineers are all there, are there all night recalibrating the system. Ours needs 15 minutes and it's all set to go for the next morning.
Okay, thank you for that. And the other thing is, I'm just going to ask, I know this technology, it's new, but relatively, but I do believe MD Anderson, for one, has been using this technology for a while, so I'm sure it's safe and all, but can you address just very briefly what risks there are, if any, to the people around, and also to the airport, getting involved in airport, communications or whatever? I mean, is there any risk there? And if so, what is it?
Well, I'll leave Mr. Safranek to address that issue. It is certainly something that FAA gets involved with. But in terms of any kind of signals coming out, in terms of safety for the facility, what we use is a hydrogen atom. And so we essentially split a hydrogen atom. We take the protons, and that's the particle that bombards the tumor in the person. Interestingly, that's when much of the radiation is released. It actually comes out of the patient, believe it or not, and neutrons are, they don't go in straight lines. And so we have to use shielding to absorb that radiation. And so if the shielding was not done properly, yes, if it were, and you had a staff person that was sitting right outside that room, that would be of issue. Fortunately for the state and anywhere else that these are built, that is very much regulated. The state will come with their inspectors. We have our own physicists on site. They certainly don't want to be working in an environment that's not safe as well. So it will definitely be checked. Our shielding designer is a professor from University of Virginia. He has done these many times. As it turns out, too, one of the nice things about burying the project is the soil actually becomes part of the shielding mechanism. And so you can actually reduce the width of the concrete when you do that, which helps, again, reduce your carbon sequestration. So it's an environmental move as well. Very, very safe. Amazingly, one little cylinder about a foot long will serve all the hydrogen need for the whole year. It's just amazing how few or how small those hydrogen atoms are that then are used to treat the patients.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Joel.
I'd like to ask Ben a follow-up question from that came to light when he was answering to Helen. Ben, this phase 2 area, I didn't even grab it on the visually on the plan until you started talking about it there, and it indicates to me that that's not being constructed. That little dashed line, is that correct? It's not currently being constructed.
No,
that area.
It's not part of this plan. And just to get a sense of where that is,
you outlined it down there.
Let me draw on it. This would be the phase 2 area.
Right, and then that's all outside of the phase 1 foundation, if you will.
Exactly. It would be under, it'd basically be the easiest way to,
But let me ask my question first.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
How are you going to excavate that to build that room? Or that vault?
If that were to be excavated, Joel, it would have to be accessed, obviously, from the east and the north side, from the actual ground itself. You would need shoring to get down there, but to get a sense of how to you couldn't be able to build it from the west side because of the existing building, but I'm going to go to the perspectives. So it would basically be in the hillside, and this is a perspective, so it's hard to see.
Mhm.
But the existing building is roughly a lot of it's underground. So it would roughly be in this area, Joel. So as far as getting to it, you'd have to get to it from this side and this side.
Okay, so you have to excavate the land beside the building foundation.
Yes,
And I heard them talking about thinner issues of concrete type material. Is the wall there
there is a,
substantial enough to be barren without the back pressure of the landfill?
well, it actually, the what's being built there right now, I'm not the structural engineer on the job, but he's not here tonight, so I'll answer for him. That back wall that's there now is basically going to be a retaining wall, a retaining foundation wall, just, like you would have at your house, in your basement on the high side. So when you excavate that, you actually lessen the load, but there may be other factors. Steve can jump in here. If it's a separate room, will the wall need to be beefed up for shielding? Steve, you could jump in on that, but go ahead.
No, that's absolutely correct. And Joe, you should become an engineer if you aren't, because thinking ahead, that's that's very important. The wall there, and I'm guessing, but I think it's about 5.5 feet thick. So it's actually thicker than it needs to be structurally, really, for the shielding. So it's and we would have to pull off the dirt as you suggest, and we would put some. It's a product called a borated material up against that, so that we could continue operations while we built the second piece of it. And then that would get another layer of concrete as well.
Very good. Thank you. Answer my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Joel. Attorney Beecher, where are we?
I think we're finally going to get to Michael Galante.
Good evening, Mike Galante, Hardys in Hanover. It's always fun to be last in the line of all the experts. But I know traffic is exciting and everyone's ready to hear me chat for an hour and a half. But Abigail, don't laugh.
Sorry.
We prepared a traffic study which really focused on the intersection of Lee Farms at Worcester Heights, where the traffic signal is, and where the new assisted living driveway is, and the upgraded traffic signal and improvements along Worcester Heights as far as left turn lanes and so on. As you know, we're in the pandemic. I think we're starting to come out of the pandemic. So for a traffic engineer, it's been a challenging year or more as far as traffic data collection and so on. But we, as you know, or you may remember, we did the Keystone Place assisted living development. We counted that intersection before the construction. We have approved traffic volumes from 2019, and following the protocol with Connecticut DOT, we're able to use those traffic volumes under a build condition, meaning it includes the assisted living development as a fully occupied facility. So we started out with a 2019 traffic volume condition for that intersection for both the morning and afternoon peak hours. The morning peak was 7:15, the afternoon peak, I'm sorry, 7:15 to 8:15, the afternoon 5 to 6 p.m. So typical commuter peak hour volumes. And the volumes on Worcester Heights is about 1,100 vehicles, both AM and PM, although the directional flow is busier, of course, down the hill towards Route 7, and it's busier back up the hill in the evening as residents go home into the neighborhoods to the east of the site itself. Lee Farms has a volume of about 170 vehicles during the morning peak. And I guess I should be sharing my plan here instead of looking at Abigail. Can you see my work?
Not yet, Mike.
Not yet.
I'm not an expert on this, so I apologize. Well,
Not your kind of traffic
Here it's coming.
expertise, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
do you see it
Please,
now?
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
the windows.
No, all right, I did something wrong. But anyhow, I can certainly do it without the graphics. So
Mike,
we
you
have-
want
Mike, you want me to share your slideshow?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You want me to share your slideshow?
Yeah, if you can,
Okay.
that'd be fantastic.
you have to unshare what you shared, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, you have to unshare.
It's not letting me do that.
Push it to the top.
Yeah. Hmm. No, I'm sorry, I can't for some reason do that.
Can anyone see my screen?
No,
It's just a blue, the only thing I see is a blue window screen.
see everyone's.
Joanne, are you able to stop Michael's sharing?
No. I'm not able to do it. I apologize.
Mike,
As you kind of hover around, it
we
should
can
be like a
project-
red stop.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, there we got rid of it.
I'm not sure why that didn't work, but
There we go.
okay, great. Thank you.
Just tell me what to do, Mike. I'll scroll through this.
Okay, don't move yet. I summarized this first page, which was the baseline traffic data for the intersection in front of the site itself. We used the 2019 traffic volumes. The morning peak is 7:15, 8:15, afternoon 5 to 6. Volumes are about 1,100 vehicles on Worcester Heights, both AM and PM. And the volumes happen to be the same total, but directional flow is certainly different, as I mentioned. Lee Farms Drive has a much lower volume from the office building, 170 vehicles during the morning. Obviously, most of that traffic is going in, and 280 in the afternoon. Most of that traffic is coming out. We obtained accident data from the Danbury Police Department for 2017 through 2019. We purposely don't take data, accident data from 2020 because volumes were significantly lower and it doesn't really represent a typical condition. But in summary, the accident data, and keep in mind, the assisted living development wasn't there in 2017 or 2018. So this accident data is before the assisted living building was under construction and now complete. So just keep that in mind. There was one reported accident at the Singleton intersection over that 3-year period. And on both approaches, but not near the intersection with Lee Farms, was about a total of 6 accidents over the 3-year period. Interestingly enough, most of the accidents were a vehicle driving off the road and hitting a fixed object, meaning a utility pole or something else. It wasn't really an accident with other cars. Was it speeding? Was it someone losing control? Some of the accidents happened during the day, so it's a little odd to see an accident pattern like that. But the road has some curves to it, and I think now that it's been repaved and striped with left turn lanes near the intersection itself, I think there'll be much better traffic control and traffic flow in the future now that that is done. Both east and west of the intersection, the pavement markings are a little bit older, and maybe the city at some point will restripe the roadway, and that may help the traffic patterns and traffic flow. You can go to the next slide, if you don't mind. This is just a graphic from the traffic report itself. It shows the existing traffic volumes. It's figure 2. Top shows the morning peak hour volumes at the intersection with the Lee Farms intersection. And the bottom shows the turning movement volumes for the afternoon peak hour. I summarized some of the volumes. I'm not going to go through the turning movements, but you clearly have the pattern of higher volumes going to the west during the morning, down the hill, and east in the afternoon, back up the hill from Route 7. And Lee Farms, of course, the volume going in is higher than the volume coming out in the morning. And in the afternoon, it's higher coming out, which would be typical. Next slide or figure, please. And as mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, as far as estimating traffic for this type of development, This is certainly not your typical medical building, but we did it both ways, and we used the much higher volumes, which is the trip generation rates from the ITE Trip Generation Handbook, which is the document that traffic engineers use throughout the state of Connecticut and beyond, not just in Connecticut. But the bottom part of that table is really what we estimate is the actual traffic at the facility as planned. You know, the operating hours, it'll open up 6 a.m. in the morning and go to 10 p.m. at night. It'll have a total of 34 employees there all day, but different shifts. Not everyone's coming in at 6 in the morning, and certainly not everyone's coming in at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of spread out. And the same would be the condition in the afternoon. 5 o'clock is not where everyone leaves, for example, like a typical office building. 48 patients per day, 20-minute treatment periods, staggered. So the traffic generation is actually spread out over the day. But what we did is we used the trip generation rate from the ITE handbook, which is essentially about double the traffic. We use 44 trips in the morning and 55 trips in the afternoon. And I didn't know about a potential phase 2 in the future, but in a way, these traffic estimates kind of account for if there was another room for treatment in this building, because we have double the traffic as far as what we anticipate. But regardless, we analyze the conditions on the roads based on the higher volumes, which is the top chart, for planning purposes, and to determine really the potential impact to the signalized intersection. You can go to the next slide, Ben, please. This simply shows the distribution patterns of the traffic. Obviously, most of the traffic is going to the west or coming from the west towards Route 7, that interchange, with 70%, the remaining 30% is coming from the east, coming down the hill, if you will, into the Lee Farms driveway. As mentioned, we are not proposing or asking for a driveway directly to Worcester Heights Road. We're using the signalized intersection. We're using Lee Farms Road as far as our access internal to the roadway system outside the site itself. So as far as impacts, conflicts, we're at a minimum. You can go to the next slide. This graphic, which is figure 5 from the report itself, simply shows the traffic, the 44 trips in the afternoon and the 55 trips in the morning and 55 trips in the afternoon distributed to the roadway system. And we took this traffic on top of a 2023, I'll call it node build traffic volumes. I don't show those figures, but we took this site traffic and put it on top of a traffic condition that's increased from a background condition, from the base volumes from 2019 brought up to a 2021 condition by a growth rate of 0.9% for those 2 years, and then another 0.9% for 2 more years. And that's from the state of Connecticut Department of Transportation. Connecticut DOT has growth rates for every town in the state of Connecticut. So whenever we do a traffic study, we make that phone call to the planning division and we tell them where the development is, and they give us a growth rate. So that's what we have. Keep in mind, all of our numbers are pre-pandemic. So nothing was collected during the pandemic conditions over the last year, when obviously traffic volumes were very, very different. Although I would say in the last 6 to 8 weeks, traffic volumes have significantly increased, and we see traffic volumes back on the roads. We have done some new counts, but there's a way of going through a process of adjusting those volumes and bringing it to a pre-pandemic condition, but not in this case. We had the volumes, so we were able to skip that step. We analyzed a future condition. We analyzed this condition under existing no build and build at the signalized intersection. It includes the current traffic lane arrangement as it is with the traffic signal timing plan that's now operating. Although it was flashing early this morning when I was up near the site because I was nearby for something else in Ridgefield. But we analyzed the before and after condition to determine potential impacts. And as you know, levels of service, I have those charts that I'm not going to show you tonight, but I'm simply summarizing it on the next figure, Ben, if you don't mind. This figure summarizes the volumes that were used, which is the 44 and the 55 and not the 26 trips. The results of the capacity analyses for this one signalized intersection shows that we maintain the overall level of service B in the morning and an overall level of service A in the afternoon. One approach does change from a C to a D, which is the exiting movements from Lee Farms in the afternoon peak hour on just that left turn movement out of that driveway, which is a C to a D. But we increased the delay by about 0.7 seconds per vehicle. So it just happens to be at the edge of the C going into a B level of service. So The overall levels of service are a B and A, which are quite good with minimal delays. So from that perspective, we don't need to recommend any mitigation, such as modifying the traffic signal timing plan. The lane arrangement with the left turn lanes for going into Lee Farms and now into the assisted living are in place. And you have one through lane in each direction, which also accommodates the right turn movements. The Lee Farms driveway and the assisted living driveway approaches would remain as they are today. And the intersection would operate with minimal impacts, maintaining levels of service on the overall operation, and no other changes necessary to accommodate this development itself. We try to be very conservative, as we usually are, as far as using the higher volumes, and that also shows that it works quite well with the higher volumes. If it was the reality volumes, which we believe would be the 26 morning and afternoon peaks, the increase in delay would be smaller, and the C to D on that one approach for the afternoon probably wouldn't occur. That's a summary of the traffic report. We cover all the bases. We included the action data, which we only received about a week or 2 weeks ago. We were able to get that into the report and into Abdul, who wanted to see it. We didn't get it from the state because the state data didn't really show any up-to-date data along Worcester Heights, so we used the city police department data, and that's what's in the report. And I can answer questions now or later. Thank you.
Any questions at this point for Mike, commission members?
Just a couple.
Go ahead, Joel.
Just two areas. One, just to verify, Worcester has nothing to do with the state highway system, right? It's totally, any tweaking that we might want to do in the future is in the purview of the city of Danbury. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the other, you mentioned possible restriping at some point on Worcester.
No.
No.
No, go ahead. I'll answer that when you finish.
It's been years trying to get other drivers in Danbury understanding the right lane on the eastbound side is the travel lane. You're not contemplating anything to do with changing that again?
No, not at all. Starting out with the intersection at Lee Farms, which has been recently restriped because of the new pavement, that's obviously not changing at all. But as you get away from that intersection, downhill and uphill, the pavement markings obviously have to be replaced every couple of years, every 2 to 3 years, depending on weather conditions, certainly during the winter. But no, we're not proposing any change to the pavement markings. You still have the center line down the road, down the middle of the road, essentially. 2 lanes, 1 lane, whatever it might be, as far as the configuration up and down that road itself. And that's a city process, not a state process.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mike at this time, commission members? Okay, Attorney Beecher, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't have anything further in our presentation tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else in favor, wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, where are we?
Paul Rotello. Can you hear me?
Oh,
You
yeah.
can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Hi.
I know, Mr. Rotello. Go
Good
ahead,
evening,
Paul.
everybody. I have a query for the traffic engineer, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. I represent the 6th Ward that this site is located on. And, we heard in the paper anyway that they were in front of us for a 600 plus trip generation. And we heard this evening that it would be way less than that. But could the traffic engineer just summarize what the total, there was no breakdown with the 600. So could he just summarize what he thinks the additive traffic would be per day for the phase 1 and then for the phase 2, 150 trips a day, 75, whatever it happens to be without the breakdown. A little confused about that.
No,
Thank you.
that's okay.
So Mike, so the questions technically come through the committee, so I'll just take
Right.
Paul's question and turn it right over.
Through the chair to you, correct, thank you.
Yes, thank you. The numbers I presented were peak hour volumes for the morning and the afternoon, which is really what we focus on for a traffic study. The number that was, I believe, 630 or 670 vehicles during a 24-hour period is how much this building would generate. But that's based on a typical medical building, not this cancer sensor treatment center, which we probably half of that over the course of a 1-day period. But the analysis is always based on peak hour conditions. So I didn't address or mention daily because It's not that it's not important, it's a number, but the analysis is based on peak hours.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that my constituents will have one question: how many trips is it going to add in a day? And I can say with some confidence it'll be about 300. And then if they went to two phases, it would be about 600, which would get closer to approaching that original figure from the handbook.
I would say definitely the 300 per day for what we're proposing. It may not actually double by adding that one extra room, if you will, for treatment, because I'm not sure how the employees and the activities would change, but the people coming in, the patients coming in for treatment, that portion would double if there's two machines going all day long. So
Right,
would it be
and that-
600?
right.
It's hard to say.
And the phase two at this point is theoretical. Okay, that's all I have. I just, for the record, I support the project. My constituents on Worcester Heights will want to know or have a ballpark figure of what they can expect to see over a 24-hour period. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Can I
Paul.
just follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, a little bit? The figure 670 comes from the actual trip generation formulas in the Danbury regulations. When you look at the ITE formulas that Michael also presented to you, or you look at the actual real traffic that's going to come out of our project as we described, it's significantly less than the 670, which is purely just a formula for medical office square footage in the regulations. So I hope that helps as well.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there anyone, I think I was on the opposition, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? I'm sorry. I can't see everybody on my screen. I have it on gallery, but I'm still missing some people, so.
I think
Just speak right up.
Councilman
Mr.
Perkins
Chairman, I
wants to
think,
say something.
yeah, I think Councilman Perkins.
Say that again?
Councilman Perkins, I believe, wants to say something.
Dwayne Perkins, fire away, Perk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. I just wanted to follow on with what Councilman Rotello was mentioning. Just generally speaking, we haven't heard, at least I haven't heard of such a high-tech project to come this way in probably ever. Not so much of the, well, actually, in so much of the technology and the building itself. And if you layer in on the landscape design, it's a horticulture's dream as far as the naturalizing all the native plants that they are proposing. Just a variety of plants that would increase pollinators. What else did I have here on my notes? Various types of seasonal interest. They mentioned a rain garden, a Zen garden. Somebody even mentioned bike racks. I guess they knew I was going to be on the Zoom tonight. But I just want a little bit of clarification about the trips. I mean, if you do just quick back of the napkin calculations, you have the number of employees with their trips, the patients with their trips. I got about 82 trips or so. If you multiply that by your twice a day, that's about 164. So just help me zero in on the number of trips. And also, I believe, I'm not sure who said it, maybe Attorney Beecher, but aren't there more than one treatment per week required? I mean, isn't there like a succession of maybe 3 or 4 treatments a week for this whole program to be effective? So that would kind of get us up to the 600 or so, but that's per week. Just give me a little bit of clarification, because I too live, I should have mentioned first, 22 Main Street, 5th Ward City Councilman. The center isn't in my ward, but it is directly across the street. And it does affect a lot of the constituents on the College Streets, Terre Haute, Worcester Heights, Southern Boulevard. So I do have a vested interest in this, but I just would like to get more clarity on how those numbers are broken down.
Yeah, let me start, and then I think we'll probably get Michael and Steve to both chime in on answering your question. But what we're trying to pin down is how many extra trips per day. So you're absolutely correct in looking at our actual proposed use. and doing your math with 48 patients times 2, 1 in, 1 out, and 34 total people, 32 employees and 2 doctors, 34 times 2. And then I think Steve said that when people are in a treatment regimen, they will be coming daily. But we're not trying to compute weekly traffic trips at this point. We're trying to sort of pin down for everybody's comfort level what the daily increase on Worcester Heights would be. Steve, am I right?
That's correct. The other thing that I think is crucial here too is that our peak traffic times are 6 a.m. in the morning, 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning. There's a change of shift at 2 in the afternoon. So our big peak times are really at the low times for anybody else on Worcester Heights.
Michael, you want to add anything?
Yeah, that I agree, of course, with Steve, but we analyzed when the volume on the road itself was at its peak, which was 1,130 vehicles on Worcester Heights, and put the peak site traffic on top of that for a worst case scenario. Plus, we used the ITE trip generation rates, which are essentially double what we anticipate for the site itself, for the development. So the 670 trips for a day is definitely not what we're going to generate here. It's probably more, it might be even lower than 300 trips during a typical day, but that could be a typical day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and something less on a Saturday if it was to be open.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up. We also mentioned phase 2, which may include the installation of a additional machine. So with that logic, can we assume that the numbers that we're talking today, if phase 2 were to be implemented, that would double?
So what happens is in any given hour, we would essentially have 3 more people, 3 more trips. So a total of 48 additional trips. There's no additional staff. So for the whole day, there would be a total of 48 additional trips. So it's not a doubling by any means.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, like I said, I do support the program as far as like the overall technology, the scope of the treatment, all that landscaping stuff. But obviously we're concerned about our constituents and the number of trips per day on that street because it's already very busy as it is. So we just want to make sure that we have some clarity going forward. Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Dwayne, and good questions. And I think we're going to be keeping this public hearing open anyway. So if anything else comes up, you're welcome to add to that at the next meeting. I see a hand up. Jackie, can't quite read it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Sorry. So my name is Jackie Reitzis. That's my husband, Bill Shute, back there. I live on one of the streets with the aspirational names, the Harvard, Dartmouth, Cornell, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually hadn't heard about this until yesterday. And I was walking around my neighborhood. I couldn't find one person who knew about it, which is, I don't know why. People say they read the News Times. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it can be extremely scary coming down Terre Haute, making a left turn onto Worcester Heights. We need some kind of large mirror or something there. People who have new drivers in their homes are terrified of these turns onto Worcester Heights. And if you're coming up the hill at rush hour, which could be like between 4 and 6 pre-pandemic, that traffic is horrendous. Just after Whole Foods opened, the traffic became way, way more. And we can crawl up that hill. And I love the architecture. I'm into modern architecture. I love the birds. I love the little animals who are going around. I'm not being sarcastic. I really do. I spend a lot of time in countries where there is very contemporary architecture. But I don't know, I'm just wondering if anybody, you're talking about aesthetics, I'm wondering if anybody made any effort to deal with that eyesore that is on the way at the foot of the hill that looks like the haunted house that's falling over with the landfill. You're going to have this incredibly beautiful building that nobody can see because it's a grass roof building, which I love, and I have some experience with those grass roofed buildings, but we have this, I don't know, I have a lot of questions. This idea of the bikes is fantastic, but we have no sidewalk. We can't bike. And then they put this little sidewalk in front of the assisted living, and it's just this little area with sidewalk, but the sidewalk doesn't continue up or down. So one could never go walking down, for instance, to the grocery store.
I'm sorry, are you speaking in opposition to this application?
I'm speaking as a concerned resident with questions about the way, the impact of this, and whether a lot of all the focus was on the minute impact after it's open. My concern is the impact in for 2 years during the construction period, because the impact of construction for the other things that went in was awful.
Yeah, do you have a question for the applicant, or you just want?
You mean, do I just want to grieve the?
Well, no, I'm just trying to narrow it down.
Okay, my question is, what will the impact be during the 2-year construction period? How many large trucks will be, or construction vehicles will there be? Will that do anything to corrode the already very poor condition of the street, the potholes and so on? Or do they just go there and then they stay there and then not moving in and out over the 2 years?
Attorney Beecher, you want to take that one?
I think perhaps since we're coming back the next time, I think we can cover that in our presentation on July 7th.
Okay. Yeah, this public hearing will remain open. But let me just wrap up. I just want to make sure, is there anyone else speaking in opposition to this application? I want to make sure I got that question on the record. All right. Okay. So we just forgive me, Jennifer, I did ask for people speaking in favor. I asked for people speaking against. I think we gave everyone an opportunity to speak, correct?
I believe so, other than commission members.
Yeah, Perry, did you want to say something?
Only that I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing.
Okay, let me get a second to that motion, and then the second from Helen. Attorney Beecher, as I mentioned, and let me just clarify with Jennifer. Jen, we're waiting for a lot of departmental reports. This thing is nowhere near being ready to be closed, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. We're still waiting. Well, hold on. We've got comments from construction services, and I'll be working with the project team next week to talk about the conveyances that have to happen to align the property line correctly with Worcester Heights, in addition to the sidewalk and the snow shelf. We have comments from the fire marshal. Those, are, comments that, the project team said that they can address very easily. There's outstanding comments from the airport administrator. I will also be working with the project team and Mike Safranek to work through those issues. It has to do with navigation easements and the ability to trim trees as required by the FAA. You have my staff report, and we're still waiting for the building department for review for handicap parking, the engineering department, and the traffic engineer. So it would be my suggestion that you keep the hearing open until July 7th.
Got it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing till July 7th. Attorney Beecher, you're okay with that?
Oh, yes, we are. You're up. Yes.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to continue the public hearing. Commission members.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Joel.
I just wanted to go on the record that the applicant has committed to answering are addressing Jackie's concern at the next meeting?
We
Yes.
have,
Thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Unless there's any further discussion, I will take a vote. All in favor of continuing this public hearing, please say aye.
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 Opposed? This matter will be continued until our next meeting on July the 7th.
Thank you,
At this
everybody.
point, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for participating.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to make a quick privileged motion for about a 3-minute, let's call it a 3-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene, everybody. About 3 minutes.
Good night.
All right. I'm back anyway. Okay, looks like we're slowly coming back. I think I'm entitled to make a privileged motion, but I'm not sure. I'll have to read my Robert's Rules of Order to stay out of trouble.
Never slowed down the last president.
Oh, boy. So how are we doing, Joanne? We got Helen, we got Arnie, we got Perry, we got Joel.
I think everyone's back.
All right.
Here,
Where's Mr. Urice? Get that video going there.
I'll put my mug back up there.
Go. All right. In that case, we're going to move to our continuation of public hearing agenda. And as shown on our agenda, the matter of Newtown Road LLC et al. Is going to be tabled again. No action taken. The zoning commission hasn't done anything on this one yet.
That's correct.
I will entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. Looks like Helen raised her hand for a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And moving down to item 2, you will note that the matter of Nee Jane Plaza LLC has been withdrawn.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Jen.
just to let the commission know, there is a defect in the noticing. The town of Bethel did not get noticed as required in state statutes.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
the applicant needed to withdraw. He resubmitted yesterday, so the official date received is today. The public hearing is scheduled to open on July 7th. So we will continue as we left off at the last public hearing.
Okay. I
Yeah,
don't think we need a motion to accept the withdrawal. I think it's just withdrawal.
no. I just want the commission to understand what happened and that they promptly resubmitted.
Thank
Okay.
you, for sure.
Fair enough, Jennifer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down, old business for discussion and possible action. Item 1, Real-Time Capital Properties LLC, application for special exception, revised site plan for expansion of existing self-storage facility, safe and sound storage in the IL 40 zone, 18 Great Pasture Road, and L 15008 and 009, special exception number 769. Commission members, you should have received the resolution of approval with conditions dated, I think it's June 10th, 2021, and I will turn it over to Jen.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Joanne, can you share my screen? Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's just a copy of the resolution, and just so you're not all looking in each other's faces, you can look at the resolution. So the whereases are pretty straightforward. Again, this is for 18 Great Pasture. This is an expansion of the existing self-storage facility. If you recall, we'd had an enforcement issue, those notice of violation that has been resolved. And all of the materials, equipment, and vehicles have been removed from the emergency access way, and we have testimony and evidence demonstrating that. I went through the history, kind of the details of the site. As a reminder, this is in the floodplain. At the possibly the next meeting or the second meeting in July, we'll tackle that floodplain permit. It will not be tonight. I added a whereas. The CEO inspected the property, determined that all violations were resolved, and the applicant's engineer provided additional verification that everything had been removed from the access way. Again, just establishing what was on the record. So if you, we go down to condition number 4, which says the storage of materials, equipment, and vehicles within the full width and length of the emergency access way is strictly prohibited. Again, we talked about that when the commission gave me guidance. So that's the language. Again, it's also on the plan as well as a condition in the approval. The other conditions, 6 requires the filing on the land records. 7 is for the floodplain permit. There is some minor work within the road right of way that has to do with the sidewalk and curbing. And then you've got the standard note for storm drainage. So with that, I'll answer any questions the commission may have.
No, it looks like a good resolution, Jen. I mean, I just want to have something of an informal agreement that we'll be keeping an eye on that access way, and at least one member of this commission is going to be pretty upset if that thing gets all gunked up with cars and boats and everything again. So we're gonna. I'm on the record as having said that. Anybody else want to have comments to Jen?
Mr. Chairman, to mirror your concern, I was just not quick enough to pull the trigger. I'm kind of curious. If they let this thing get out of hand again, how easy is it to pull the permit and shut them down? Or is it?
Well, you can't pull the building permit, but go ahead, Jen. Why don't you talk to
Well,
that?
no, I mean, the zoning enforcement officer, I mean, he can't shut operations down. He can require, he would issue a notice of violation, and be specific about that violation and whatever that may be, if it's material, vehicles, whatever it is in the access way, that's what the notice of violation would be specific to, and he would be required to fix that situation. So the only way to fix that is to remove it. So if he chooses not to, then he continues to be in violation. And I believe fees are assessed, the city sues, and we go through that whole process.
But you can't red tag the gate.
No, I don't believe, no, because the violation isn't for the use itself, it's the violation to the material stored in the access way.
Yeah, no, Joel, I know what you're saying. I wish we had more punitive measures available to it. We don't. We just have to go through the process, but it's still something we're going to keep an eye on, and we'll use whatever means we have to insist that condition be enforced.
I'm just going to throw one other thing out here as a food for thought, and I'm probably way off. Could the violation not be because it's not the safe operation of the business because there's this clutter, whatever, and it's an unsafe condition? Therefore, we're going to red tag your gate.
I don't know the answer.
I think, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
again, that would be up to the zoning enforcement officer to determine the level of violation. You know, if it's a handful of things, or if the entire access way is blocked and emergency access is has deteriorated to a point where it does cause public harm, then, you know, again, that's something that the CEO would have to make a determination, and I'm certain would be working with the fire marshal. You know, I'm not sure the building inspector would get involved, but certainly the fire marshal, because that emergency access way is used by the fire department, not all the time, on occasion, they do use it. So, you know, he would work, you know, in tandem with the fire marshal and the chief of the fire department, if need be, to determine if that does need to be, you know, completely shut down until the situation is resolved.
Remedy. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out, Joel.
All right. Okay. I got a direction to go on that.
So anyway.
Oh, he's muted.
Okay,
Joel, you're muted.
No, he's not.
Well, I finished saying what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
All good. Anything else on the resolution, commission members? Anything else? Or are we ready to vote?
I'll
unless
make a
go
motion
ahead, Helen. I'm sorry.
to approve this application with conditions as stated in the drafted approval document and based on our comments and inputs from last week.
Okay, motion made. Looks like Perry seconding that motion. So
Second.
we have a motion to approve the resolution of approval. And with a second, again, a yes vote is to approve the resolution of approval, and a no vote is to not approve the resolution of approval. I think I can take a voice vote on this one. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The resolution of approval is approved. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving, folks. The clock is ticking here. Old business for discussion. I'm sorry, yeah. Item 2 under old business for discussion, possible action. We're gonna go back to the public hearing we closed this evening, which is Nutmeg Square LLC, application for revised special exception, revised site plan approval for fast food restaurant Jersey Mike's, and trip generation over 500 vehicle trips per day in the CG20 zone in small piece of IG 80 70 72 Newtown Road, L12026, special exception number 697. Would anyone like to comment or give their thoughts to Jennifer at this time? Well, I'll start. If everybody else is going to be quiet, I'll start. I have no problem with the use. I think all we're doing is allowing a sandwich shop in a very large shopping center I don't see where there's going to be any sort of negative traffic issues. And going back to Abdul, I kind of agree with the comments made by Joe, which was, you know, they're completely redoing that whole area. If Joel really wants to, feels very strong, I mean, if Abdul feels very strongly about the changes he suggested, it could be a change order to the DOT and not gunk this thing up for 6 to 12 months, going back to the DOT. We all know, we've been down this road before. We all know where that goes. So again, it's a sandwich shop and a shopping center. I don't want to make more of it than it is. That's my feeling.
Okay, I'm
Mr.
going to agree
Chairman,
with
I would-
that. and-
Sorry,
Mr.
go
Chairman,
ahead, Helen.
I'm going to agree with that. And to me, it looks like a replacement of, you know, from cell phones to sandwiches, but no really different impact in terms of how that's dealt with customers. No drive-through window, thank goodness. And, you know, as far as the traffic, you know, the pedestrian crossway goes, I think state has to weigh in. So I don't think this should be a case of the tail wagging the dog. So I agree that we should maybe just let that, you know, be settled in the future.
Thank you, Helen. Anybody else?
Sure.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
sorry, Joel.
No, go ahead, Barry.
Okay,
Every
thank you.
car-
I would echo both of your comments. And, you know, do I dream it was a more walkable area? Sure, but it's not in reality. It's an area where people, you know, drive as a destination. It's a driving destination. And I think even to go from one shopping center to the other, they will get in their cars and continue to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Perry. Joel?
Yes, I'm going to ditto the chairman's comments. I disagree with Helen just a little bit. It's just not cell phones to sandwiches. We're adding.
We do have, we don't have any referrals this evening.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm sorry. We do have, we don't have any referrals this evening.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Sorry, Arnie.
Thanks, Ben. Oh, no problem, Ben. Take care. Have a good night. Nothing under referrals, nothing under new business or correspondence. We do have this thing under other matters. Request for request for lot consolidation, lot line revision for Peterson's Farm subdivision 0302 1113 Peterson's Lane. Jennifer, you want to give us a rundown on this?
I sure can, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share my screen again. We all like to look at pictures.
We sure do.
Yes, we do. So I'm going to first, so just as a, see if I can pan out here. So Peterson, so this is for Peterson's Farm subdivision. It was approved, gosh, 15, 20 years ago, maybe. I think early 2000s it was approved, 2002 or 3, I believe. Middle River, and it meanders, I think, I don't know what this little side street is, Lewis Allen Drive, and then Peterson's Lane. There's some pretty big houses out in this area. So the request is for the lot line revision and a lot combination for parcel 15R, which, can everyone see this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can zoom in a little bit. See if I can move it over a little bit. Hold on, sorry. Well, wait, let me move all the way. Trying to get over to the road, it's just not showing it. So parcel 15R is, you know, approximately 4 acres in size. If you, if you recall, several years ago, the commission had a city council referral to, it was a request to purchase a parcel that, come to find out, was actually owned by the city. There was a quick claim deed from what they thought was the property owner to Tony Lucera. And come to find out, once they started doing the lot merging and the deed work, that the city actually owned the parcel. And this was, of course, after he built his garage. Let's see if I can get my, yeah, so let's see. I'm just trying to, oops, draw. So this is the parcel right here. And then you can see this is the garage. So this whole parcel was actually owned by the city. So back in 2017, he petitioned the city to purchase the property. And as you know, there's a process for that. And council actually approved the sale in 2017. And there were kind of these last minute, not last minute, but these, you know, kind of lingering requirements that needed to be done. You had to pay for the lot, of course, the taxes on it. There was an appraisal that had to happen. And then one of the last steps is this lot combination. So that's what brings them here. They wanted to kind of complete that transaction. I've spoken to Corporation Counsel. They have the money in hand. And as soon as the commission approves the lot combination and, you know, I affix the stamp and the signature, it will get filed tomorrow and that process will continue with the transfer of title and all of that, which is what the attorneys will handle. So in this case, again, it's tax assessor lot B08008, and you can see right here, Danbury. So, you know, it's approximately, I don't know the size. I believe it's an acre, possibly more. And then there's a tiny, so to add the wrinkle to this, I presented the lot line revision to the commission several years ago, a long time ago, for this lot combination, and there was a minor lot line revision that went with that. And again, you know, we were told that it was a quit claim. We didn't know at the time that the city had owned it. So as part of that, again, the lot combination, there was a minor lot line revision that, let's see if I can draw it again, down in this area right here, tiny, right here. And again, that was done in the previous map, but because that map is null and void, they needed to wrap that lot line revision. So that's why it reads lot combination, lot line revision. So they're combining the city parcel with the larger parcel 15R and then incorporating that tiny little piece of, oops, sorry, hold on here. Let's get clear. Really? There we go. Oh my goodness, hold on. This parcel, which I believe is 14R. Sorry, hold on here. 14R. So that, again, that minor revision from 14R and then the lot combination into the city lot into the larger lot 15R. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Helen.
what involvement is there of the owner of lot 14R?
it's under the same ownership. Tony Lucero owns that parcel as well.
Oh.
Now,
Oh, I see.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Again, part of a broader transfer property that's happening up there. You know, these little last minute, you know, when you want to sell a piece of property, these things have to be resolved. And this is one of the things that has to be resolved.
Okay, so we're the city is selling this, I guess.
Yes.
And the rest of it is just, but the lots are still two lots, but it's owned by the same person.
Well, no. So again, the action from the planning commission, so the city is selling the parcel.
Yeah.
And with that, oh, not quite simultaneously, this filing has to happen first, and then we take, I'm not exactly sure how the transaction happens, but I was told that the map revision has to be filed first and then it's come after. So what happens is that existing tax lot that the city owns then gets absorbed into parcel, lot 15R. So it's not two lots, it's one lot. So that's the lot combination.
Yeah, I get that, but 14R is still its own lot, right?
Yes, it is.
That was my question.
But
Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, Helen.
No, that's okay. No.
forgive me, Jennifer, that lot below where Lucera's house and barn is shown, that lot, but he doesn't own that, correct?
The 14R,
Yeah,
I believe he does.
I don't think he does.
The
Oh,
map indicates he does 11 and 13 lands of Anthony and Ruth Lucero.
Yeah, but no, I'm talking about the one below it.
The one that says First Nine Corporation?
No, to the right of that.
Hold on.
He doesn't own it.
This
He doesn't-
one?
Yeah, that one, that 2-acre piece right there. He doesn't own that one, does he?
Yeah, he does. He
I was
owns
looking
the,
for
well,
the
I
names
mean,
and I
this,
figured it's not listed because it's in the description of the map that it is those two parcels being described.
it's my understanding that Southport Real Estate owns this parcel. First Nine owns this parcel and Tony owns 15R and 14R.
Huh. Okay.
that's,
Right.
I was just concerned about what the other lot owner would think of this or whether they were involved, but it's the same guy, so.
Right.
Just
I just
kind of
had-
cleaning everything up.
I just thought that Southport Holdings owned that.
The 14R,
Yeah,
I don't, it's not showing on the map as that, so I'd have to think if they did, it would be
Okay,
shown
maybe
as
I'm-
that.
maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, I'm not trusting what the map shows right now. But,
Could I ask a quick learning question?
Yes.
I noticed the driveway kind of goes into the Southport property. Is that an easement for driveway access that they would have there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Cool.
Mm.
Thank you. And thank
Yep.
you for the description of this quirky history of this property here.
It's
really.
very, it goes way back. Every time I open it, I kind of cringe because there's been these tiny little lot line revisions over time. And then you have the whole quit claim issue and, you know, some maps were null and void and some didn't get filed and then the deeds didn't get filed. So a lot of this is cleaning up what had happened transpired over the last 10 years.
what I want to know is, did he get paid back from the guy that said he owned the property that he didn't own?
Yeah.
I can't speak to that. I think it was the quit claim. I don't think there was any,
Okay.
you know, I shouldn't say, I don't know.
Okay. What do we need on this? Is just a motion to approve the lot line revision?
That's
So
correct.
moved. So moved.
Second,
All right, there's a motion to approve the lot line revision. Do I hear a second?
second.
So Helen, thank you.
I
And just so the commission knows, the next meeting will have another lot line revision for the parcels to the north. So the Southport, I know, and this is by design. They wanted to come in all at once and I said, no, we need to fix this situation first. And then we'll contemplate the other lot line revision. But that's to the north, the Southport Real Estate and parcel 15R.
Okay, so I seconded this based on the fact that we're hearing it's the same person that owns both the lots, so there's no
Yes.
issue. Okay,
That's correct. What I'm telling the commission, so you're not like, you know, thinking I didn't give you all the information. The next meeting, there'll be another lot line revision for the parcel to the north, the Southport Real Estate and parcel 15R.
thank
So
you.
that will happen at the next meeting. But again, it's my understanding based off of the maps that Anthony Lucera and Ruth Lucera own parcel 15R and 14R.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
there has been a motion and a second to approve the lot line revision. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Lot line revisions approved.
Thank you. Stop sharing. Hold on.
So, there's nothing under, oh no, that was other matters. And there's some stuff for reference only, like
Ready.
Jennifer. Unless there's anything else, commission members, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Come on.
Second.
Motion
Carrie,
Seconded,
thank you.